I've had ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, for about 22 years. And I thought I'd perhaps tell you a bit about it. Over that 20 years, that you might find bits and pieces helpful that you can connect with, and also the things that I've learnt. And of course, it's an ongoing process. I'm still learning, and I'm still learning from other people when, if I watch videos and listen to people on YouTube and things. I've never been very strong. I've never had a lot of stamina. Um, um, During my teens, early 20s, I did try taking up jogging in the 80s because it was very fashionable then to go jogging. But I found it extremely exhausting. I just something I couldn't get into. And I found this with anything that I tried, I was struggling. The only thing I could cope with was just ordinary exercises. And I used to do those twice a day. And I also used to go swimming, but I did have problems with swimming in that of nearly drowning in terms of getting exhausted and getting into difficulties simply through exhaustion, which is quite scary. But I wasn't a strong swimmer. I always found it difficult. But I was trying my best to keep fit because, that was what, the message coming across in society. Do everything you can to keep fit. I did eat healthily. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I made my own food, the home cooking. Everything was home cooking, fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, the whole lot. So no fizzy drinks. I was doing everything by the book in the 1980s when it wasn't fashionable, because I was trying to do everything to help myself, to try and lead a healthy life. I used to like going for long walks. I loved going for long walks, but I couldn't have joined a walking club and gone for miles and miles, I don't think. But I did like going for long walks at my own pace. In my late 20s, I started coming down with what was called viruses, which to me felt like an infection. So you go to the doctor, went to the doctor, it's a virus, there's nothing we can do. And I say, well, I'm so exhausted, there's nothing we can do, it's a virus. And I was also getting a lot of infections. Infections in both my ears, both my eyes, throat infections. I was continually coming down with infections and these so-called viruses. And there was nothing being done about the viruses. ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, was not on the horizon, or not in the UK. Never heard anything in the newspapers about anything in America with ME then. And I remember being very puzzled, why am I so exhausted? And I do remember flaking out. I was aged about 29, and after just going to the shops, local shops, and just so very exhausted. But, I had been to the doctor, and you change doctors and it's exactly the same. It's a virus. When I entered my 30s, it seemed to get worse. I'm still getting viruses and throat infections. And I think I noticed it. I was at a college, I was studying theology college and theology, and they had this work ethic. You had to go into college once a year or twice a year, what was called a work day, and everybody had were given physical tasks to do. So I knew I wasn't very strong anyway. So I said, I'll do the weeding of the garden, because I thought, well, I could manage to weed the garden, surely. And I was trying to dig the thingamajig in to the soil, forgot the name, and I couldn't lift the soil. I could not lift the soil. And I thought, what the heck, why can't I lift the soil? And I looked across to the other girl, another girl, and she was just turning over the soil. And I thought, what on earth's the matter with me? I can't do it. So I went and sat next to her thinking, oh, maybe the soil's different here. Maybe it's softer. I still couldn't do it. I couldn't lift that soil. And then I think I was given something else to do in the college. I was still struggling. I still couldn't do it. There was just no strength in my body. I was at the time very embarrassed about this, very ashamed, that I couldn't do anything. The lecturers, the people in charge, they didn't pick up that there was a problem, a health problem. They were determined to make me work, the Christian work ethic, and all of that. And it was supposed to be 2 days of work. Anyway, I simply went home. I didn't ask permission, I just went home. I didn't go the next day. I didn't go. I mean, that's, I can't remember what happened, whether I got into trouble about that or probably, I think it was more disapproval, but even from fellow students. But I didn't have the strength to do it. There was nothing I could do to help them. There wasn't any, and it was very embarrassing because what they were asking of people was hard physical work, and I couldn't do it. Then I got an abscess in my, the mouth, and the gums and everything. Needed dental treatment. Then I got more abscesses, and then I had 2 years of hell of reoccurring mouth infections, dental infections, and needed continually treatment. It was a terrible 2 years. I lost weight, a lot of weight, which didn't suit me, and my dentist said to me, you're losing a lot of weight. I think you need to go to the doctor. And I said, well, maybe this is because of the infection. She said, no, this shouldn't be happening. You're losing a lot of weight. I was quite a big-bosomed lady. The bosoms just disappeared. My knickers were falling down, everything. And it was getting to the point where, even the dentists were fed up of me with these infections. They didn't know what to do. The doctors were having to give me very high strength antibiotics to combat these very severe infections. And obviously I was exhausted and tired with all these infections. But I do remember getting ready to go to work, getting up and dressed. You know how busy, it's you're on the go, aren't you, when you get up and you're doing this and doing that, you're having your breakfast, getting dressed, doing this, doing that. And by the time I got my coat on ready to go to work, I was absolutely exhausted. I just lay down on the bed, absolutely wiped out. And I thought, what on earth has happened to me? Why am I so exhausted? And it's very, very alarming. I can never, forget that. It was I was quite frightened. Why am I so suddenly exhausted? And then I found everything was exhausting me. Just washing a few dishes, combing my hair, brushing my teeth. Bending was the most exhausting. I couldn't lift anything. I remember just vacuuming one room in my flat, and I was in so much pain. I was in bed for 2 days from doing that. I was in so much pain, muscle pain, unbelievable pain. I suppose I was in a good position in that I was taken seriously from the beginning. I think I'm one of those people that when I'm ill, I look ill, and when I'm exhausted and in pain, it shows. I'm one of these people. It just shows on my face. It shows in my tone of voice. It shows in my demeanour, the way I hold my body, everything. I think it just shows. And and I'm not putting on an act. I'm just being myself. But I think it just shows. I think it's very obvious. Even when I look in the mirror, I think, oh my lord, I look so pale. I'm so black under my eyes, and my eyes are sort of half closed, and um, even speaking was exhausting. And of course, she did the GP did the normal um, blood tests. I think that we started to hear in the United Kingdom a bit about ME. It was just starting, um, and I was in my late 30s, so it was kind of coming over from the States, hearing more about it. But I do remember reading when I was about 30, I'll never forget this, or 35, I don't know what, it was some TV magazine, and it was about listing weird illnesses, weird illnesses, and bizarre illnesses, and it was ME. And what I read, it was something in America, of course, it's always America, starts. I read it, and I thought, how bizarre, how strange, how weird. And never in a million years would I have believed that I would suffer any of those symptoms that I was reading about. I thought, this is really strange. What a strange illness. And I thought, like most people do, you read these bizarre illnesses, think, that could never happen to me. No, that would never happen to me. People that are allergic to dust and things like that. You just can't imagine it. You think, oh, that could never happen to me. No, that would never happen to me. I just thought it was so bizarre and strange. And the person was saying they just lifted the hand to scratch the nose and they were in pain. And it exhausted the hand and the arm. And I read that and I thought, how bizarre. So when I saw the doctor and the blood test, everything came back negative, everything, then she said, it looks like you've got this ME. Somebody else told me, I think you've got this ME. I wouldn't accept it because I thought it was all to do with the infections that I'd had in the dental treatment and the fact that I had so many infections. And I thought, if I just take it easy for 6 months, go to bed early every day, go swimming 3 times a week, try and get myself eating again, fresh fruit and vegetables like I'd always done, and just use my common sense of not overdoing it, early to bed, early to rise, healthy eating, going for walks. I thought I would be all right. I thought I would get stronger and stronger, and I reckoned in my mind it would probably take me 6 months to get better. I genuinely believed that. I thought, if I look after myself, I'll get over this in 6 months. I did consider moving to another city, so I put my name down for housing. And they said it could take a couple of years, and I thought, well, that's all right, because this will give me time to get better, to get strong. And I was in no rush to move like the next week. So that was fine. But of course, it didn't work out like that. Um, I remember being so exhausted at work at 11 a.m. I felt like it was like 11 at night. rather than 11 a.m. in the morning, when you're supposed to be quite, energized at 11 a.m. And I felt by 11 a.m. I was ready for bed. The job I was in was in the national health, our national health. It was short-staffed. I was overworked. I was expected to do the work of 1.5 people. Originally, when I'd accepted the job, I had passed the medical, but the job wiped me out. So it seemed to be a combination of everything, all the infections, the viruses I'd had, the infections, dental infections, and then this job that was overworking me. They were expecting me to do the work. They were literally expecting me to do the work. It wasn't like try and do the work, do the best you can. It was you must do that work. They expected you all the work to be done, even though it was a workload for 1.5 people. I was expected to do it, to complete it. So obviously I left the job on medical grounds. I do remember seeing another GP, a doctor, and the doctor, when he knew where I was working, said it's not going to change there. Apparently they had other people from this hospital going down sick because of the shortage of staff and people being overworked. So as you can see, it seems to be a combination of things. The first year or two were the most agonizingly painful 2 years. All the muscle pains, I seemed to be in a state of over-exhaustion, and so exhausted I didn't know what to do with myself. It was the most terrible feeling. Normally when you're healthy and you go shopping and you come home tired, if you lie down after about 10 minutes you feel relieved, don't you? You feel a bit better. But I was getting no relief. I could lie in bed for hours and I still felt absolutely exhausted. I was spending initially 23 hours a day in bed because I lived on my own. There was nobody to look after me. I remember crawling on my hands and knees to the toilet. I fell out of bed. I wanted to go to the toilet. I fell out and I couldn't get myself up, so I crawled to the toilet, held onto the toilet and managed to pull myself up and sit on the toilet. And I was very pleased with myself because I thought, at least I've got myself here. And I managed to get back to bed. So I was in bed 23 hours a day, then I reduced it to 22 hours a day. The 2 hours would be having to get up and quickly get dressed and try and get some basic provisions for myself, like toilet paper. It's as basic as that. If you've got nobody to help you, it's as basic as that. I had to get to the shop to get toilet paper. I had to get to the shop, to get a few bits and pieces to eat. I do remember starting with the constipation then. I'd never had constipation before, but obviously I was very, very exhausted, and combined with the bed rest, that was a problem. I do remember buying lots of prunes and that to try tackle the constipation, which isn't very nice. And I was struggling to eat. My weight plummeted. I had no breasts. All my breasts disappeared. No breasts. In the mirror, I became unrecognisable. I couldn't recognise myself. I became so thin. My hair went like straw. Absolutely, it was horrible. My hair went so bad. It was literally like straw. All the conditioners and, I used to try everything for my hair. Nothing worked. It was totally dried out. And even the doctor said to me, your hair is so dry, it's really got very bad. It was like straw, literally like straw. Um, the doctor was very nice. She could see I was ill. It was so obvious. And she had known me a number of years, and I, I wanted to go back to work, and I used to argue with her about it, and she kept saying, no, you're not well enough, you're not well enough. Um, I so much wanted to work, and I felt so embarrassed and ashamed, being sick like that. Um, because it's a stigma being unemployed, and it was as I say, the early days of ME. Nobody really knew anything about it. Eventually, I managed to get things down to 18 hours a day in bed. I was determined to get myself off that bed, not because I was genuinely quite scared that I might end up totally bedbound, because I had heard this, that somebody, you were hearing things in the news of people being totally bedbound, and that really scared me. I thought, I'm not going to be totally bedbound. So, but like sitting up in a chair would exhaust me. I could do it for about an hour and then I had to go back to bed. But I got myself down to 18 hours, and so I was 18 hours a day in bed, and I just was also very, very cold. The first number of years I was very, very cold. I could never get warm. I had two quilts on the bed. I had the heating on. I was still very cold, always cold, shivering, couldn't get warm, wearing polo neck jumpers in the summer. So I'd lost a lot of weight. I was painfully thin. I couldn't get warm. Um, my appetite was poor, absolutely exhausted, sleeping a lot. I was sleeping a lot, an awful lot those first couple of years, just sleeping and sleeping and sleeping. I had no problems getting to sleep. It was just sleep, sleep, sleep. But then things began to change, and I think this is perhaps got something to do with the menopause, because really things, we're getting into my 40s now. I was premenopausal. I was starting to have problems getting to sleep, right, which is sometimes with the menopause, it can start sleep problems. Um, that was a problem. Sleep problems, getting to sleep, waking up, staying awake, but still feeling exhausted and ill. I was needing 16 hours a day in bed. Um, I was somehow, but you know, from the, I started trying to get up 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd go and have afternoon rests. But I found these afternoon rests would go on into the evening. Then I seemed to be getting worse. I found I couldn't get up. By the time I'd got up and had breakfast, I needed to go back to bed again. And so I was in bed I just started being in bed all the time. But what I was doing was I was trying to create normality. So I'd get up, shower, get dressed, and then go and be lying on my bed all day. But I felt, well, at least I'm dressed. But then it was just getting worse and worse. Then I started more sleep problems. Then I started getting fevers, night fevers, and in the day what's called hot flushes. I don't know if mine are worse than anybody else's, the normal hot flushes, but it was terrible. Day and night, feverish, constant going into a fever. And so I couldn't sleep at night because of this. It was so bad. I experimented with alternative therapy and still take something for it. I do still take things which has helped a bit, but it's still a problem. So I was getting in fevers day and night. Um, Feeling very, very ill with it. Um, I found my sleep started getting erratic, and really everything went downhill. Probably, I'm now 60. It probably went really downhill about 6 years ago when I was about 54. So I'd entered the menopause. My periods are completely stopped. Completely stopped now. So I'd gone into postmenopausal with ME. And that's when things really seemed to, for me, get much worse. Mainly because of the sleep problems. Um, Everything was becoming erratic. I'd go for days without sleep, either 1 day, 2 day, or 3 days, 60 hours without any sleep, yet feeling exhausted. Waking up, if I did sleep, waking up hourly, then I'd have waking up 2 hourly, then I'd wake up every 1.5 hours. The range of symptoms and throughout the 20 years is just phenomenal. I don't go to the doctor about my symptoms because, quite honestly, I learnt very early on this is bizarre and strange, and I just can't go running to the doctor for every little bizarre symptom I get, because there are very bizarre things. I mean, if I work from the head down, all that I've had in 20 years, tender head, sore head pains in different parts of the head, dizziness, eye pains, throbbing eyes, sore eyes, itchy eyes, dry skin, tinnitus in the ears, ringing noises, migraines, headaches. Um, it affects my taste, it affects my smell, very sensitive to smells. Taste as well. Sometimes I can't stand certain tastes, can't eat certain things, but other times I can, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. I can't understand it. Earache, glands, swelling glands is quite a problem. So many times I've had chickenpox 3 times in 20 years. I've had over 20 years 60 infections, 60 infections, 60 infections. Yes, you heard right. 60 infections. And with every infection, it puts me back. I've had throbbing breasts, sore breasts, muscle pain in every area of my body. Every part of the body, when it's touched, is tender to the touch. It feels like I've been beaten up. I have balance problems. I've had numerous falls. Dizziness, queasiness, feel I'm going to pass out. Weak ankles, throbbing, burning pains, cramp, waking up with cramp going on for days, cramp in one leg going on for days and days and days, then moving over to the other leg going on for days and days, pacing my home day and night with so much pain, with the cramps, not knowing what to do with myself, and singing to keep myself cheerful, try and keep my spirits up. Stomach problems, irritable bowel syndrome, severe pains in different parts of the whole stomach, the whole abdomen, all sorts of weird pains. My knees hurting, the top of my body getting boiling hot. You could fry an egg on my bottom, it's so hot. My thighs burning with heat, but my knees are freezing cold. The lower legs and feet are like icicles. When I'm in bed, I have the fan on because I have the fevers, and I have a hot water bottle on my feet. That's how I have to have a hot water bottle in my feet. Even if it doesn't matter how hot the weather is, I need a hot water bottle for my feet. They're like icicles. So from being very cold at the beginning of the illness 20 years ago, I am now getting fevers, and it's day and night, and it's particularly the night time is the worst. I'm speaking to you, it's 2 a.m., 2:56 a.m. and it started in bed, the fevers. I have the heating on because what I've learnt from experience is you must make sure that the room temperature, you must have a thermometer in each room and make sure that the room temperature is as it should be. It should be about 73. You don't want it going down to 67 or 65 because keeping warm, a sort of a pleasant warmness will help, I found, with my body and my aches and pains and just the overall well-being. In other words, being cold causes me to deteriorate very quickly. I can't stand the cold. The damp and the cold worsens me. If I go out and it's cold, I come home and I'm so cold that I have to sit under a boiling hot shower for 20 minutes. I have, I just stay out of the cold. I don't go out when it's icy. I don't go out in the snow. The fact of the matter is, if I fall, I cannot pick myself up. That's how weak I am now. I cannot pick myself up. So I don't go into the garden when it's dark. I once did go into the garden and it was a bit getting dark and I fell, and I didn't break anything, but I was terribly bruised and battered, and I was excruciating pain for a month. Both ankles were severely sprained. The left shoulder was all bruised. The bottom was all bruised. I couldn't leave my home for a month anyway to do anything. Totally isolated. Thank God I'm on the internet for my shopping. But I never go outside in the dark. Because if I fell, I wouldn't be able to pick myself up. And if there's nobody around, that's it. You don't want to fall outside in your garden and then it gets cold. It could be raining, it could be damp, it could start snowing, anything. You're putting yourself at risk, so I've learnt not to do that. I never go out in the snow. I have a guinea pig to keep me company. I had a guinea pig. He got very sick. I wanted to take him to the vet, but I couldn't balance on the ice. It was in the middle of winter to get to the taxi to take him to the vet. And I knew if I fell, that would make it worse for the guinea pig. My guinea pig was already in distress, and there's no way I could have got myself to the actual taxi. I couldn't walk on the ice. That's how bad my balance was. So it was an awful. I had no choice. I couldn't take him to the vet. It was awful. And I didn't know anybody. I wouldn't know anybody that would be willing to take a guinea pig to the vet. Perhaps some people might take a dog to the vet if it was sick. So, oh, we don't want a dog being ill, we'll take it to the vet for you, but not a guinea pig. There's nobody to help. and nobody's going to want to help. They just think it's silly. Well, I'm not going to take a guinea pig to the vet. I've got more important things to do. So there's nobody to help. So that wasn't very nice. But I had to make a hard decision. I thought, there's nobody going to look after me if I fall and I get another, who knows how it's going to affect me. It's not only going to distress the guinea pig who's already ill and make it worse for the guinea pig, but it also make it worse for me. This is the kind of thing, the problems you get. I got the guinea pig about 8 years ago to keep me company. I was waking up in the night, in pain, as you are, feeling very ill, and I just felt very low. And I suddenly thought, I think it'd be nice to get a little pet to cuddle. So I bought a guinea pig, and it's been a godsend having a pet to cuddle. It's just a company. Even if I'm not cuddling her, it's just the fact that I've got company. It's a living creature. The guinea pigs are always pleased to see me. They're up in the night. You can hear them. You can hear them eating. You can hear them drinking from the bottle. You can hear them jumping about and squeaking. My guinea pig is quite squeaky. I can go over to the cage and stroke her. It's lovely. That's absolutely beautiful. I can go to the fridge, get her some cucumber. I can give her something to eat at 4 in the morning, and she's thrilled to bits. And I'm loving it, and she's loving it, and we're both very happy. And it's been wonderful. And if I would recommend it if you live on your own, if you're going to get a guinea pig to keep you company, or hamsters, then you need to keep it at chest level. It is possible to keep a guinea pig in a cage and not take it out. The most important thing is buy a large cage, put it on casters or something so it's higher, chest level, and you want it large so there's lots of room for them to run around with. It's the same with hamsters. You don't have to take them out of the cage, like with a guinea pig. What you can do is put your hand in the cage and stroke it. Now, guinea pigs don't necessarily need picking up and cuddling. What guinea pigs love is the attention of being stroked and being talked to, and that's quite sufficient. So, like for instance, I often don't pick up my guinea pig because she moves too quickly for me. I can't move as quick. I can't keep up with her. Secondly, I'm not well enough. In other words, I am not on the ball. I'm so tired. I am unsteady on my feet. It's not safe to pick her up most of the time. I don't pick her up. So she's safe in the cage. It's a big cage. She runs around. She's got a little house. She climbs into the house. I clean the cage while she's in it. While she's in the cage, she's quite happy. She doesn't mind. She sits in the little house. I clean everywhere. She gets a piece of cucumber afterwards, and she's quite happy. So this has worked wonderfully. I do a spot clean of the cage. I try and do it every day because of my sense of smell. I'm very sensitive to smell, and also I can't cope with obviously wee and the guinea pig poops and everything. You're not feeling like, oh God, I can't cope with this. So I try and do it every day. The little bag, I go around the cage and just remove anything that's wet and yucky, and then put fresh bedding down. By doing it every day, it makes it easier for me, and I can keep on top of it. So it stops the cage getting gross and disgusting, and it's keeping it clean for the guinea pig. Also, I don't have any home help or anything. I manage the things I do in my home that need to be done, both mental and physical tasks, by breaking everything down, and I have been doing this for 20 years. So, for instance, one day I'll clean the toilet, the next day I will clean the bathroom sink, the next day I will clean the shower, the next day I will mop the bathroom floor, the next day I will mop the kitchen floor. So everything in my home is broken down into small bits, right? and I keep it very, very, very small. And so I'm going round and round and round looking for to do things in small amounts. Some days I can't do anything. I might get 2 or 3 days I can't do anything. But then I think, what could I do? I know I will just clean the top of the cooker or something. I'll just wipe round the top of the cooker, get it all nice and clean. So I'll do that. But that's another job, you see. I've done another job. I'll clean the top of the cooker. Another day I might decide to just go around the kitchen surfaces and making sure it's all nice. You know how you like to keep it nice. You just go around. That's another task for the day. And so by doing this, trying to do very, very small bits, I found this has worked for me. Now I'm spending 16 hours a day in bed every day. And yet I'm doing these tasks in small bits. And I found for me it works. To cope with the garden, I did have a gardener, but he stopped coming after a number of years. I bought extra light, a cylinder mower without a box on it, and I found I could manage it. I bought an extra light hoe, which was no weight to it, and I found I could manage with that. So I'm constantly over the years been experimenting and trying to find ways of being as independent as possible, and on the lookout for gadgets that might help me. When I was talking about all my symptoms, I didn't go through them all. My wrists are very weak. There's not much strength in my hands. My fingers hurt, even using a keyboard. I get mentally very tired, exhausted. I get muddled up very easily. I get confused. I'm forgetful. I have difficulty recalling things, remembering things. I forget important things I'm supposed to do. I forget important things that I'm told I should be doing. But somehow I've survived and I'm living on my own. The mental aspect is for me, I suppose, humiliating, because I don't come across as very bright, because I often struggle to find words. I know what I want to say, but I often struggle with my speech, and I don't know why this is. It's been like this since I've had the ME. But I was having problems a few years before. I did go to the doctor about this problem, but the doctor said, well, we all have difficulty in remembering words. I went through, things were getting very bad some years ago when I was calling things by the wrong name in public. So I would call a book a cassette, I would call a skirt a blouse, and it was getting embarrassing. And I didn't know I was doing it. I experimented with alternative medicine, and I found a remedy that did help with that, because this is a remedy really for Alzheimer's. And I thought, well, this is what I seem to be having problems with. I'm getting muddled and calling objects by their wrong name. People are telling me, this isn't, why are you calling a skirt a blouse and things like that. It was happening an awful lot. People were just looking at me like, what's up with you? But the stuff that I took did help. I was also forgetting things like my telephone number, things like that. And that's the remedy I took that seemed to deal with it. It did reoccur again some years later. Again, I was found and I couldn't remember the words for things, and I took this particular alternative medicine again, and it did stop it again. Um, so I don't know what's going on there. Um, if people ask me a question, I can't, I don't know how to reply often. Um, and it's only, I remember like hours later what I should have said. I, I never make decisions on the spur of the moment. I always ask people to give me time to think things over. Somebody could ask me a question and I could answer them, and I think I've given them all the information. And then, this happens regularly. I remember a few minutes later when I put the phone down, I haven't told them this and I haven't told them that. In other words, the way the brain is it's like the information is not coming forward all the time. So it's I don't know if I'm making this clear, but I'm struggling to recall things. I think I've given all the information and I haven't. Um, 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 and I do get muddled, or I do get muddled quite a bit. People have said I seem to seem disorientated, and that is true. I do, sometimes get disorientated, and I like in terms of my bearings where I am. If in the past when I was trying out go shopping, I get disorientated. I still have major balance problems. I find I need 16 hours a day in bed rest. There's no doubt about it. What 20 years has taught me is the fact that bed rest does help. I have spent the last 20 years in a blacked out room with no noise at all. That is the best place for me to be, in a blacked out room with no noise. I don't find it depressing because it's where I feel the most comfortable. Totally flat out in a blacked out room. I need no light at all. I can't bear light. And I need 16 hours a day. If I don't get 16 hours a day, my balance gets worse. Very, very bad. And I'm falling. I had to go to a shop a few days ago. I'd managed to get myself up and I had to get across the road. And I don't know, this is very typical of me. I turned too quickly and I reached out and grabbed a woman and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I grabbed her for balance. I'd lost my balance, and this happens a lot. And obviously I'd only had 12 hours rest. It wasn't enough for me. I'd been in bed 12 hours. It wasn't enough for me. I lost my balance. But I could lose my balance even if I had 16 hours sleep. Often I shuffle walk. I literally shuffle walk, but as long as I can walk, I'm not paralysed. But I won't go into a wheelchair. I've never used a wheelchair. I won't use it. Often in the middle of the night, I can barely walk. I struggle to walk. It's like this most nights. I struggle to move about my home. And I just want to the one say thing is, when you've had years and years of all these symptoms and so many unpleasant things, and it keeps on repeating itself, it becomes a new normal. Because I've had people look at me, like workmen in my home have come into my home, and they see me walking, shuffling, and they look horrified. I can see on their face, I think, oh, what's the matter with her? But you see, I'm used to this now. To me, this is my new normal. And also, I think to myself, I can walk. I can walk. There are people out there who are paralysed and they cannot walk. they would give anything to be able to do what I can do, to shuffle walk. So I have no reason to complain. I know I'm very, very blessed to be able to walk. I might shuffle, it might look a bit, but I can actually walk. Now, there are times when I can't get out of bed and I can't get off the settee because I am so exhausted. I can't move. I simply cannot move. This means that sometimes I do wet myself. I can't get to the toilet in time, so wet myself. That's the new normal. I fall off the toilet. That's the new normal. Because I'm so stiff, I try and get off the toilet. I've had a lot of problems with that. Go through phases, falling off the toilet. But when you have so many of these symptoms over a number of years, it's a case of, here we go again with this another funny symptom. So on one level you're used to it because it's the new normal, but it doesn't mean you like it, and it doesn't mean, how could I express it? You're used to it on one level, but on another level you're not used to it. You want to be well, and you want to be able to be like you were. I want to be like I was 20 years ago. I don't want to be like this, you see. So for me it's frustrating still. So when you're well, you look at people with disability and illness and chronic illness, and you think, oh, they've got used to this, and you think it's all right for them now. They just go with the flow and everything, and it's like, hey, it's okay, it's cool, man. Hey, yeah. Hey, I've lost a leg, but so what? I've got used to it now. It's like, it's not like that when you lose a function or your of a bodily mental function. It's not like that. Of course you've got used to it, but you don't want it to be this way. You never want it to be this way. And I mean, a person who's lost a leg and who used to love dancing, going to nightclubs and dancing, will, after 20 years of being without a leg, will still, when they hear music, want to be able to get up and dance. Can you imagine it? Wanting to be able to get up and just dance a bit to the music, your favourite records on. You want to just get up and do a little dance, and you can't do it. Can you imagine what that must feel like? That's what it's like for a person who becomes paralysed from the waist down or loses a limb. You look at them and think they've got used to this. They haven't got used to this. They want to get up and dance just like you do. You can do it, but they can't. And you look at them and think they've got used to it. Oh, they'll have got used to it now. They've been paralysed 8 years. She'll have probably got used to it now. No, she hasn't got used to it. She wants to do what you're doing. The guy in the wheelchair, the young man in the wheelchair, wants to be able to get up and play basketball. He wants to go jogging like you do. He wants to do it. The fact that he can't do it doesn't mean he doesn't want to do it. I think this is something, this is where well people have to understand it. Because you can't do something doesn't mean you don't want to do it. You want to do it. I want to be able to work. I want to be able to hold down a job and do a day's work like other people. I want to earn my own living. I don't want to be on state benefit. I want to be earning my own money. I don't want to be state dependent. I want to be well enough to work. I want to be able to run for a bus. I want to be able to go round the shops, without, without getting exhausted and having to sit down, lie down. I want to be able to get up and go to the toilet when I need to go to the toilet. I can't get up and go to the toilet when I need to go to the toilet. I am so exhausted. I also suffer from sleep paralysis that I get from time to time. So I'm sort of conscious, sort of, but I'm paralysed. I can't move at all. And I don't know how long it lasts because I can't move to look at the clock to see what the time is or anything. But I've had that over the years. But it's not very nice, but you know, it passes, and then I get up. I always need to go to the toilet when I suffer sleep paralysis, and then I wet myself. I've lost count of the times I've fallen in my home, fallen in outside. Um, so to summarise, right, basics. Listen to your body. You probably already know this. Listen to your body. If you're already exhausted and you start to feel a bit more exhausted, that's the time to stop. You must stop immediately. Stop whatever you're doing. It's the hardest thing to do. Everybody with ME finds it hard. You're middle of washing the pots and you're suddenly overwhelmed with exhaustion. You want to finish washing the pots. It's annoying. But we all know we've got to stop. You've got to stop and sit down. If you lie down, you will find you will need less time than if you're sitting down. So if you suddenly get wiped out with exhaustion, you're doing something like washing the pots, you get exhausted. If you sit down, you might need to sit down for 15 minutes. But if you lie down, you might only need to lie down for 10 minutes. So what I'm saying in my experience is that lying down, when you lie down, you rest the whole of your body. When you're sitting down, you're not resting all of your body. You're sitting upright. So that itself is putting a strain on the body. So lying down, in my experience, is the best thing to do. So you suddenly get exhausted at home, lie down on the settee, lie down on the bed. It's the same with if you're on the internet, anything to do with the mind. As soon as you start feeling overwhelmed, tired, fagged, if you start feeling irritable, if you start feeling, oh, this is too much, stop, 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 stop. Have a break. Break everything down to small amounts. I would clean my teeth, right, and go and lie down. It sounds ridiculous and balmy. Clean my teeth, go and lie down on my bed for 10 minutes. Get up, and then finishing washing my face. Lie down again. Take off my nightie. Often I couldn't put on a bra. I couldn't move the bra, I couldn't adjust the bra, I couldn't do anything. That's difficult. So that often meant I couldn't get dressed. That was another thing. I found I couldn't get dressed because I couldn't put the bra on. I didn't have the strength to put the bra on. I didn't have the strength to put on a jumper. So I found it more comfortable now. I'm in pyjamas, a nightie all day, and all the time. Comfort's very important. Your bed, keep, clean, keeping, clean, changing your pillowcase as well, a fresh pillowcase. If you can't take it off the pillow because you're so weak, your hands are so weak, there's no strength in your hands, get a clean pillowcase and put it on top of the pillow. You want to make yourself comfortable in bed. You need a glass of water by your bed at all times. You need a phone by your bed for emergencies. Use your answer phone. My answer phone is on 24/7. I don't want to be interrupted. Put a note on the front door. No cold callers. when you eat small but nourishing meals. Whatever you eat, try and think nutrition. In other words, don't find yourself eating what you know is rubbish because you can't be, you don't feel up to doing anything. You know, everything what you take in needs to be good for you. So wholemeal bread, fruit, porridge, an omelette. Be careful with your ready meals. Make sure it's nourishing and good for you. Find a way of getting fresh vegetables and fresh fruit into your body. Find a way of doing it. Keep it small, but make sure that you are also getting enough to eat and that it's like kind of good for you. You know what I'm getting at. Because in terms of snacking, making sure that it's nourishing and good for you. Because you need, even though you're in bed a lot, you need to build up your strength. You still need strength in your body. You need to be drinking lots of water. If you don't drink enough, you will become more tired. So make sure you always have lots of liquids. Um, and I've talked for so long, I didn't intend to talk for this long. Oh my lord, it's 2 hours. Is it 2 hours? No. Is it 1 hour? Oh, it's 1 hour. It's 1 hour. Oh, it's 1 hour, 2 minutes. Well, that's long enough for you to listen, isn't it? Um, and I think that's it for the moment, really, isn't it? And I hope this has been helpful in some way. Um, I think it can be reassuring. I've been reassured when you hear people tell you symptoms and different things. And you say, "Oh, that's me. That's me. I'm not the only one that's getting this weird symptoms." Because I mean, this illness does seem to bring up some very weird symptoms. Um, and try and focus on what you have to be thankful for. Um, um, the little things. The little things. I find that a lot of people have trouble coping with sickness. They People want you to be better, and when they see that you're not getting better, and there's not much they can do to help you to get better, then it makes them feel inadequate. Sometimes when people feel inadequate, they can get quite angry. So they're looking at you, they can see you in a bad way, there's nothing they can do to really relieve it. They know that. They feel inadequate, and then they might shout at you. Right? That's funny human behaviour. I suppose if you look at it from an observer's point of view, looking at you, looking at me, it must be quite alarming to see a friend or a relative deteriorate. Because I've deteriorated, but remember this is gradual. And as you deteriorate, you somehow have to adapt to it, because this is life. You have to adapt to things, don't you? You can't do what you used to do. So you have to just somehow you know, accept it even though you don't like it. You have to somehow adapt to it in some way. Right. But the problem is, I've forgotten what I was like. I've forgotten me of 20 years ago. And the problem is somebody on outside can see this marked deterioration more probably than I can. So somebody perhaps who hadn't seen me in years will suddenly see me and they'd be horrified. I'm looking at it from their point of view and they're thinking, oh, she used to be so bright and so quick-witted, and she never used to be so slow, and she used to be bright and bubbly. What's happened to her? Or she looks really, really tired out. She looks awful. Oh, she looks dreadful. Oh, she's aged. Or she can hardly walk. She can hardly walk. Because I haven't seen you in so many years. She can hardly walk. Why is she asking me to repeat everything? Why can't she understand what I've just said? Why does she seem confused? Why does she seem muddled? You know, why is it she needs to spend 16 hours a day in bed? What's the matter? It's very, I'm just thinking it from an observer's point of view, somebody who knows you from the past, and they look at you and it must be quite alarming to suddenly see somebody so changed in so many ways. And they've known you to be bright and bubbly and laughing and joking, and you're a fast talker, and you respond quickly, and you're bright, and you're everything, and lively, and you're energetic, and you're this and everything. Suddenly they're confronted with this exhausted human being that looks so ill and drawn, and they seem a bit withdrawn, and they're not very talkative, and you can hardly hear them when they're talking, because it affects my voice when I'm very exhausted. I can hardly speak because I can't hear you. Can you speak up? I can't hear you. So many times people have said to me, on the phone, I can't hear you. Speak up, I can't hear you. I'm so exhausted. Just speaking is an effort. And so I suppose we have to try and understand people on the outside who are fit and well and looking at us and thinking, oh my Lord, what's happened? And sometimes people try and say things to try and make your sufferings light, and I think as if it's not anything major, and I think they do this because they can't cope with it. They can't cope with it. They can't cope with it. Nobody will take my house keys. I've got a spare set of keys and nobody will take them. None of my neighbours, nobody, the neighbours won't take them. Do you know why? And you know what they've told me? I don't want the responsibility if you have a fall and you need help, or you just need help. They've said to me, I don't want the responsibility. And these are nice, decent people, but they don't want the responsibility. And I'm looking at it from their point of view, and I can see they're probably looking at me and they're thinking, she is not very well. They've noticed all the change in me. She seems to be getting worse. Do I want to take on this? If she's got my phone number, what is she going to demand of me? What is going to be required of me? She's already spending 16 hours a day in bed. What if she gets worse and she's asking me to do this and asking me to do that? So people are actually quite frightened. They are frightened if they can cope with your illness and what you might require of them, or might they feel obliged to offer to help you, and they really don't want to, but they feel obliged to, but they don't want to because they're frightened of what will be expected of them in the future. And I've seen it from so many people fear that it actually frightens. They seem frightened of what you might, of the fact that you, even a simple favour, people get frightened. You can see the alarm, like, oh dear. The best people to ask for help are complete strangers because they don't know you. A complete stranger is more willing to help than somebody who knows me, because the people that know you don't want to get involved. But I find strangers are very good. If I fall in the street, strangers very, very good help me. A total strangers are marvellous, but the people that you're acquainted with, friends, don't want to know. They don't want the responsibility. They can see something's not right and they don't want to get involved. And this is life. This is just the way it is. They're not necessarily bad people. It doesn't. Not all friendships can cope with chronic sickness, and I think we can often be rather mean about friends that leave us when we get sick, and it's simply to do with the fact that they can't cope with it. Um, Friendships can be for different. You're friends with people for different reasons, because you like going out to a club, you like going out for a drink, you like doing this together. Not all friendships are strong enough to cope with chronic sickness. Not everybody can cope with it. Not everybody can cope with it. And these people probably feel very bad about the fact, and they feel very ashamed and embarrassed that they can't cope with it. But a lot of people cannot cope with chronic sickness. They cannot cope visiting somebody who is always ill, who always looks ill, who is obviously in a lot of pain, a lot of distress, and they feel totally helpless. And it's very, very difficult. So we have to try and understand other people and their reaction to us, and that if they don't mean to be mean, it's just they can't handle it. A lot of people can't handle sickness. They can't go into a hospital. They can't visit somebody in hospital for all sorts of reasons. Also, people have suffered in the past looking after sick people, and they feel they again don't want to get involved because they feel they can't cope with it. They might have nursed somebody who's died from cancer, and they look at you and they say, I can't take you on, I can't be friends with you because I've already had enough coping with my deceased mother when she was ill. Um, and if you are in the early stages of ME and you're listening to this and you're thinking, I'd never be able to cope with 5 years of this illness, I'd never be able to cope with this, like this woman for 20 years, what I would say to you is take one day at a time. You have to live your life one day at a time. Don't try and imagine 20 years of this illness, because you live life one day at a time. You don't live life 20 years at a time. When you get up and cope with your day, you're not coping with 20 years worth of a day. You're just coping with one day. And all that's required is you get through one day. You get through the day. So, oh, got through that. Hard going, but you got through it. And some days are better than others. Some days are better than others. You'll have good days, you'll have bad days, but you're living life one day at a time. And yesterday might have been an awful, wretched, horrible day, but today could be a bit better. Or again, it might be still horrible. But the day after might be a little easier. And it's a case of hanging in there. I have felt like I've wanted to end it all. Many, many times I prayed to God, I've just had enough. I want to die. I want to die. But I believe in God. I pray to God and ask Him to help me. And then what I find every single time is when I wake up the next day, I just feel that little bit better. Not fantastic, but I feel that bit better. And I suddenly feel I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad to be alive. And it's about weathering the hard times. It is very, very hard. Um, there are things like different groups, as you know, you can join, and they are helpful. Lots of other, things online you can talk to, Samaritans and so on. And if you are living on your own, even if you're in a flat, in a bed sit, you could consider, like me, having a little pet to keep you company, a hamster, a guinea pig, even a bird in a cage, keep you, it's nice, it's life. Um, and if you just take one day at a time and just, that's it, one day. And with this illness, you can have a run of bad days and you can have a few weeks of bad weeks. But what tends to happen, things peter off a bit, and then you're still not feeling fantastic, but it eases a bit. In other words, you are not, I haven't spent the last 20 years with a fever of 103, 24 hours, 7 days a week. For the last 20 years, I haven't had a temperature of 103. Right. So in terms of the severity and the range of the symptoms that I've experienced over 20 years, it hasn't been of a temperature of 103. It's varied. Right. In other words, it's up and down various degrees of all these symptoms. Various degrees of severity, up and down, day and night, different levels. A few very hard days and then it peters off and it's not too bad the next week or two, and then you have a difficult few days and then it's easier, and then it gets hard for, you might have a hard 4 weeks and then it just peters off, and then it some eases off a bit. So in other words, what I'm trying to convey to you is you will not be intense, you are not going to be in intense agony for the next 20 years. It doesn't work like that, because it just doesn't work like that with chronic illness. And you talk to anybody with chronic illness, it's good days and bad days, good days and bad days, a good week, a bad week, a good week, a bad week. You've heard of good years, bad years, good years. That's how it works. That's how it works. And just as you get through one day, you will get through the next day. And then you will get through the next day. So just take it one day at a time and focus on the things that you have to be thankful for. When I'm in bed, I thank God I've got a bed to sleep on. A lot of people don't have a bed to sleep on. I have a mattress, a comfortable mattress, clean sheets. I have a pillow, nice and cosy. I have a hot water bottle, nice and cosy. I have central heating. I've got a nice blacked out room, nice and cosy and restful. I've got a nice little guinea pig to go over and stroke in the night. I can get up, make myself a cup of tea, have whatever I want. I can have a glass of water. I've got a nice home, a little home. I've got a garden. I can look out the window and look at the grass and look at the sky and the trees and the birds. Right? I could go on the internet. Perhaps I could only go on for 10 minutes because it hurts my eyes. But I can go on for 10 minutes. It's better than nothing. In other words, it's appreciating the little things. And if you keep reminding yourself of that, when you're feeling depressed, when you're feeling you've had enough and you can't cope with this anymore, just focus on all that you've got to be grateful for and all that you have actually. And if you do that, I think on a long-term basis you will find it will help you. It will help you to keep more positive, because if you're thinking of how much you have to be grateful for, it will somehow keep your base of your mindset as a positive sort of mindset rather than negative. So if you keep focusing each day and looking and thinking what you have to be thankful for, you're struggling to walk, but you can walk. You're in dire agony when you walk, but you can walk. There are people that are paralysed and cannot walk. So you have to remind yourself of this. Your eyes are burning and sore and itchy. Your head is throbbing, but you have eyes and you can actually see. There are people that are blind and would love to be able to see, even if there were eyes were sore and itchy. Right? So it's trying to look at everything from a positive point of view. Your ears are hurting, you've got tinnitus, but at least you're not deaf. At least you're not deaf, you know. And so it's trying to kind of look at everything in a different way. And I'm going to end now.